Welcome, everyone, to episode 231 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pentalaresco. I Write Stuff, podcast 2. Today, continuing with the Octavia Book Bindery series, my guest is David Sidjak, who runs Sigla Books, which is located inside the Book Bindery. Sigla Books is really neat because it's a very literary bookstore. The book selection is based off David's taste, which are really interesting, really eclectic. I got a book there myself when I did this interview. All in all, this was a really fascinating conversation. I really enjoyed it. Before we get to that, just talk about today. I'm kind of right now just finishing a column to hand out. I'm going to have a first comics column soon again. Woot! But I actually want to talk about my day job. I don't normally talk about my day job, but for the last few days, because of the extreme cold that is Calgary, I've been wearing a ski mask to do my job, which, for reasons I don't fully understand, it just gets nothing but laughter from my coworkers. There's that momentary spook sometimes. I mean my boss go just for a second there today, and it was funny to me. But yeah, I've mocked robbed some people. I had people come to me with their hands up. It's been a surreal experience to me. But it also just goes to show that deep down, no matter what I dress like, no one is going to take me seriously. Now, to be fair, my mannerisms in the mask are a little silly too, because I'm in a mask and what the hell, and people are laughing already, so I might as well just embrace it. But all of this to say, you never ever should take yourself too seriously. And upon that note, I think from there we'll get to our conversation with David. All right. So I've turned the recorder on.
Okay.
If there's anything incriminating I'd like to say, make it good.
Good one.
Yeah. So, your full name is?
David Sidjak.
Sidjak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is your store?
Yes, it is.
So where are we?
We are within the confines of Octavia Book Bindery, or Octavia, as you will notice Robert saying, at Sigla Books on 10th Street Southwest, the west end of downtown, between 7th and 8th Avenues.
Yeah, so when I was here last, which was about 5 years ago, this was a completely different bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened? Did you just take over?
No. There is some continuity in that I knew Keith and his bookshop pretty well. Wordsworth.
Yes, which was a really
number of your listeners will.
I love that bookstore.
Yeah.
It was my honestly, with all due respect to Ferris Fair, I actually liked Wordsworth as his bookstore better. I thought he was a lot. Keith was very passionate about books in general. All right, and I found, although again, nothing against Ferris Fair, they have a good staff and they do have people that generally care, but they're so big, right? That the I'm not gonna say the personability. It's the fact that you can tell that like Keith was all about the books. Like you could really tell that, and he loved them, and you could just like that was the impression you got of Keith whenever you walked into the bookstore.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and you before you turned record on, you mentioned we discussed a little bit the happy accident.
Yeah.
And Wordsworth is a place where I and a lot of people I've talked with made a number of happy accidents almost every time I came here. Partly because you'll admit, I think, that it was a little bit of organized chaos.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you find things misplaced or in one of the heaps around his desk, or especially in the last year that it was open as he slowly wound things down.
That was a good one.
Yeah. So just to finish, I made a comment about there being some continuity. Well, I bought a lot of books from Keith, and I could point to some of them right now that have gone away from this location
and have come back
home to roost.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, it's interesting. Sometimes my dad works in alternative health. He will give medicines away, and then sometimes they'll come back. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily those particular ones, but the same kind of concept. I think what happens is when you immerse yourself into like a world, right? You in an odd way, what you give, you get. Mm-hmm. Right? It just kind of like comes back in kind of a circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you notice that in other ways in this business too. And sometimes you sell a book or for instance, in one case, a book from my dad's collection came back to me, or as I start to say, a book that I sell comes back to me. I recognize it by a name or my price or something. So it goes out into the world and comes back.
Yeah, no, which is always a really, really fun thing. So I guess now again, based on what I'm saying, there's a lot of classical literary stuff around me. So was that where your proclivities went, or?
The literary and everything related. Yes, we've got fiction here, and you mentioned Ferris Fair. And one way I when people ask what kind of books I have, what I'm doing here, I say, as much as I like Ferris Fair and go there and find books, I am kind of doing what they are not doing. So my fiction section is quite small, but it's quite dense with what I think is really good stuff, and a lot of which is a little out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I actually see, like, I'm an Aldous Huxley guy, so Time Must Have a Stop. It's like that caught my eye, right? So it's like, okay, that's a really cool book.
Yeah, and then speaking of that which is related to the literary, one of my better sellers over the almost 3 years that I've been here is the kind of psychotropic, psychedelic section.
Yeah.
And of course you've got Aldous Huxley taking up a position there, so I've sold any number of his books in that realm.
And I also see a lot of Kafka, who's another really, really, really like classic style author. And he's like
psychedelic without the drugs.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, he's one of my favorites. If I had to put a face on this place, I might.
It would be Kafka.
Well, I don't know. I've got a lot of sort of heroes and leading lights, but Kafka certainly
one of them.
Yeah, as a person and as a writer.
Yeah, that's fair. So okay, we'll go there. What drew you into him?
Pardon me.
What drew you?
Well, I knew it's one of those evolutions. I read him probably in high school. And I didn't take English literature at university, but I became more and more interested in writing books and literary things and learning in general through university. So I first discovered Kafka and, had that teenage perspective. And I don't think you really get Kafka and can really enjoy him as a teenager unless you're really gifted. And so through my 20s I started getting into him a little more, but it wasn't really until I would say my late 20s or 30s when I really started to get into Kafka as the author's author, as just a great writer. And then I discovered the Oulipo, the French school, Georges Perec, and it became really popular. And I read a book, and I started to see how Kafka was kind of an anticipatory plagiarist. He was kind of doing Oulipo before the Oulipo was around. He was doing these rhetorical little exercises where he'd come up with a word and then just play with synonyms. And so I started to see above and beyond what everybody thinks of as Kafkaesque. He was just a great writer and a very funny writer.
Yes, fair enough. And as a result, like you still like him to this day. Who else are you a big fan of?
I mentioned the Oulipo, Georges Perec, and oddly enough, not oddly enough, I guess, a lot of my writers like one another. So, in a big biography of Perec by his translator into English, one of the photographic plates in the book shows a real likeness, physical likeness between the face of Perec and Kafka's face, and Perec commented on that. It was his favorite picture of himself because he resembled Kafka. And they're both Jewish. And then other guys from that circle are really interesting. Harry Matthews, who just died a year or two ago, and then his friend, a remove or two from Oulipo, John Ashbery, poet in New York, was a real Francophile, and Harry Matthews was a member of that group, and they were friends from stateside, so he was connected to Georges Perec and all these guys. One of my favorite writers.
Well, something I've learned doing this, like just doing what I've been doing, is just the fact that it's a small world. Like they're like whether it's whatever writing circles you're in, they are all incredibly small worlds. It's amazing who knows who and what, and it's amazing. Also, the group of writers that come up together and how they kind of push each other to be better, right? Like Oulipo was smart, Kafka, so it probably pushed him to be better just because that, like, you always try to seek what the masters thought, right? And for all intents and purposes, you're trying to kill the Buddha. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right. So.
And also that kind of intergenerational connection, as I refer to how Kafka would do. It's almost as if he influenced. He was thinking the thoughts of the Oulipo before they existed.
Oh yeah.
And they all loved him, and he probably would have felt at home with them as much as he felt at home with any other human beings.
Yeah, which is really cool. So this was a happy accident. We kind of went all over the place here, which is which is not, again, what this podcast does. So that's a thing. But you ended up, so when Keith walked off and you bought a whole bunch of these books already, it was just like a natural thing for you to go.
Well, no, I already, actually, long before Keith made noises about giving it up, I had thought about, dreamt of starting a bookshop. I worked for, sorry if I always figure a good conversation has lots of tangents.
Oh, no, don't worry about it. So we'll go everywhere and anywhere. It doesn't matter to me.
I'll just backtrack a little bit. I worked for Tom Williams Books. Some of your listeners might know Tom Williams. His shop was literally destroyed by the flood. It was submerged completely because it was underground, close to the Stampede grounds.
Yeah, that would destroy the bookstore. Yeah.
So going back to that time when I first worked with him, I worked on 3 separate occasions for him. I think it was 1995 or 1996 when I met Tom and worked for him. Even at that time, I was thinking bookshop. So then, by the time Keith was going out of business and I really started buying books by the dozens from him, I was almost ready to start a shop. So as a result, a lot of these books, a fair number of these books came from his shop.
Well, and then he was just like, okay, I'll just come on in and do this. So I guess you've been doing this for 3 years.
No, sorry to keep on complicating things too, but
That's okay.
I started I moved in here almost 3 years ago. Robert's been here for 4.5 to 5. But for 2 years previous, or almost 2 years previous to my moving in here, I was in the oddest place for a bookshop that you can imagine. The Grain Exchange building.
Oh, really?
You know the building, beautiful building. I had always dreamt of having some sort of a business in there. So I had heard about in bigger cities, New York and places like that, booksellers will just have a shop in some sort of a high-rise or even in their condominium in downtown Manhattan, and I invite people up to see their books. And I thought, well, I'll do a variation on that theme, and maybe Calgary's ready for it. Well, I tried it for almost 2 years, and it was kind of a disaster because I was in there with a bunch of engineering consultants and hairdressers, and nobody discovered it.
Well, no, because I mean, yeah, it's the audience of the building too, right? Mm-hmm. So, like an engineer, don't get me wrong, it's not that they don't read, but again, you're looking at, if for someone like that, like a lot of engineers, right? They're using their brain a lot. Like a lot of brain power is going into designing and building all the time. So if they are going to go to read a book, chances are like they're going to be very escapist because it's just you want to unplug after a day, and again, and it's just the right people at the right place. Now somewhere like this, where you're at right now, is a book bindery place. Like people that come in here would be hardcore book lovers. Or they'd be students, or they would be
a lot of grad students.
Yeah, exactly. So which fits this a lot better?
Yeah, and that certainly was the attraction. I went through that experience, and it was interesting because it's a really cool building, and I did have a few people coming in and out. But it was tough, and so I was attracted to this. I already knew Robert, and I thought that, as you suggest, the bindery and the bookshop would fit well together.
Yeah. Well, again, and
it's on ground level.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. A flood would still suck here. It just wouldn't. What's the term? It wouldn't necessarily break you the same way. It'd be like, all right. I mean, there'd be some things I'd be sad to see go, right? But I mean, you'd be like, I can survive this. Whereas if you're underground, yeah.
Okay, so Tom's is underground grain exchange. Maybe I'd never thought of this before. Now, maybe I went up onto the 4th floor as kind of an overreaction to the trauma of Tom's.
Yeah, that might. The other thing too. I mean, here's the other thing about like buildings like this, right? Unless you are incredibly well known, like incredibly well known, it's hard. From the ground floor, a stranger walking by may not necessarily be aware that a bookstore is in a giant building, right?
There's really nothing to tell that.
Yeah, no. I mean, there are some things I would try. So I'll tell you a fun story. I did my very first book signing was in Calgary when I did that poetry book when we talked about off the air for like my early 20s. Mm-hmm. So it was in this very there was this essential oil place in Kensington, though. It was in this really like corner thing of the building. It's like, well, how can I get people to come to the signing, right? Because it's literally it's in a really awkward spot. So I'm like, well, so what I did was I printed out arrows on computer, like big arrows, and I taped them to the street.
This is interesting. I'll tell you why.
Yeah, so people followed them. It was hilarious because
see them.
Well, it's so here's the deal. No one wants to hear an advertisement. No one. Like I mean, it's a necessary evil because we are all trying to sell something. Mm-hmm. You have a bookstore. You would. I mean, I know it would pain you in some ways to see some of these books walk off the door. It would pain you a little bit. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, you do have money to comfort you when it's over, and that I mean that's the nature of the game. That all said, right? No one wants to. You don't want to make an advertisement, let alone people don't want to hear them. Like because it's a necessary evil on your end, and people get bombarded. Like literally, you walk out the door, you see signs, logos, you name it. Like
much more agreeable to do this kind of advertisement.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. There's not a soul alive that doesn't like to play. Not one. I know everybody's games are a little different, but there's not a soul alive that doesn't want to play. When Words Collide, I did something called a Dr. Seuss off. I love Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss is
a book or two.
Yeah, he's one of the most clever. I think I would argue the greatest graphic novelist of all time. Like that's my argument.
The greatest what? Sorry?
Graphic novelist of all time. Mm-hmm. I think you can make a legitimate argument that from a comic book standpoint, he actually might be the best one out there. Like,
certainly a prototype.
Yeah, and so what I did was I did a Dr. Seuss off, which is I got people to read Fox and Socks and Say or Don't Say, and then people started coming up with their own ideas. So I literally got to watch people reading Fox and Socks in Russian accents, right? Oh, it gets better, right?
Put on Russian accents.
No, put on Russian accents. Well, although really good. Like we're talking like Natasha from Rocky Bullwinkle, like awesome stuff. A Valley Girl off, which was a Yoda voice.
Good idea.
Yeah, right. People like to play. Always, people like to play.
If I can just interject.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quite a serious study of play by a Dutch philosopher, Sigla, and the title is Homo Ludens, the man who plays.
Yes. Mm-hmm. No, because what does he talk about?
I haven't read it.
Oh.
I knew about it long before I finally found it, and people come in and the cliche question, "You read all these books?" No.
Well, no, there's no way.
That's one I haven't got to. But now that you bring it up, you pose the question, I think I'm going to look into it.
Well, because
for our next interview.
Yeah, no, because the challenge today when you look at advertising any kind of book is interactivity. No one wants to buy. Like, I don't want to hear a sales pitch. You don't want to hear a sales pitch. I mean, the biggest thing I hate about Twitter. I don't know if you're on Twitter or not.
No, but then there's YouTube.
Yeah. Well, YouTube's a little better. I bring Twitter up as an example for this reason. I will quote unquote friend someone, especially other authors. Mm-hmm. The biggest turnoff is to see going to read a message that's advertising their book. I don't want to hear that. I just don't. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I like you as a person, I might actually,
It's sort of false pretenses,
Yeah, exactly. If I like you as a person, I'll look you up and see what you do.
Uh-huh.
Flip side. But, so I use my social media to talk about Baileys and ice cream. I talk about comic books I like.
Uh-huh.
I talk about, I goof off. Because, for me, right, I recognize that, if I'm having fun, people are going to be drawn to that. Mm-hmm. Right? And I have to be, no, I can't fake it. If I fake it, it won't work. Right? Because if I fake it, what happens is people will smell bullshit.
Uh-huh.
And they'll call me on it and they'll be right.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment you lose that credibility, you're done.
Yes, I like that you told me just to talk about things that interest me and be myself regardless of your audience.
Yeah, because it's about being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you?
Mm-hmm.
That will draw people. And again, I said this off the air, I'll say this on the air. An equation of a sale is who are you, what do you offer, why should I care? If you are who you are and you are authentically you and you are just you, you won't. No one likes everybody, right?
Please everybody.
No, you can't.
Nor can my shop.
Nor can you shop. But you don't care about that. You want book I am probably gonna buy the Proficient de Trois Arthurian romances.
Yes.
See, I'm a big fan.
Man's Library.
Yeah, no, it's a really good book, and I think everybody because that book has the. And I did an essay for Ben Bella Books. I compared Aragon to Percival.
Which bookshop?
No, Ben Bella Books is a publisher.
Okay.
All right, and I wrote an essay about Aragon comparing him to Percival. Gretchen Sloth wrote the original Percival story, and I read that story.
French.
Yes, yeah, I read that because I wanted to see the similarities, and because that's a much more that's a full story, a complete story, and you get a really good idea of who Percival was. And there's a lot of similarities between him and Aragon, like tons. And there's also a lot of similarities between Percival and Peter Parker, and a lot of other classic, because he is literally the prototypical hero's journey, way before Joseph Campbell.
Or the Dark Knight.
Dark Knight's not Percival. Dark Knight's he's more King Arthur than he's Percival.
Well,
yeah.
That fits into a small but fairly respectable Arthurian section.
Yeah.
So that's sort of an example of how I like to kind of colonize things, get a few books in out of the ordinary sections and build upon them. And not, as you just suggested, not everybody is going to like me or my shop or my books. But you're the person who does really like Arthurian stuff or out of the ordinary fiction, or I could mention any number of subgenres.
Yeah.
I think they will. Poetry is another good section. They will like the shop, and they. I'll just throw another plug. Not so much a plug.
Go ahead.
Philosophical interest of mine. I thought a lot about books in the bookshop, kind of as an archetype over the years. And one thing I think this bookshop offers is, despite its being fairly small, it's dense, as I said earlier. So it's a browser shop in that if you get into literary history and criticism, into my section over there, you will find that there are quite a few good books on any given shelf and related things.
Can I give you what my impression of the shop is? Just it's a niche book.
It's
a niche.
Interesting to get other people's perspective.
It's a niche bookstore. There's nothing wrong with that. We live in a world today. So here's how the world has evolved in terms of sales. You are either a niche or you're like Walmart, and there's no middle ground anymore.
Yeah.
Right? There's no middle ground. And niches are great. Like, honestly, niches are, because here's the interesting thing. There are 7.5 billion people on this planet. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that 1% of these people love literary fiction. That's 7.5 million people. You're okay with that. You know?
Mind you, at the risk of offending some fellow Calgarians, I don't think we have that 1% here in Calgary.
Well, maybe not. But I think
it's a pretty corporate city.
Oh no! I would. This is my challenge to you. I'm going to challenge you on this point. Now, my friend Chris, he works. He's the one that recommended I check this place out for the podcast. All right, he knows of this place. I think you would be shocked. I think your challenge going forward is you need to really think about, like, this is a great place for the university. This is a great place for state. And you are actually near both of these places. Absolutely. This is a great shot for them because they can come in. You have the opportunity also because you have a bookbinding place here that's kind of unique. And I'm going to ask them some of their own. I have some ideas for myself, actually, because, again, I'm okay with being a niche myself, right?
Yeah, your podcast, for instance.
Yeah, exactly, right? The point I'm getting at is, right, I think what you need to do is, yes, this is a very corporate city. This city is a combination of old money, right? Old money, old ways of thinking. But there's also an underculture here of a lot of people looking for alternatives. You are an alternative. And I'm bringing this like this. You are an alternative. You need to brand yourself as an alternative. Going back to the Ferris Fair. Ferris Fair is the used bookstore in the city.
There are two Ferris Fairs left. There's Aquila, the rare and antiquarian place up on 16th Avenue. I understand it's cut back to Saturdays only, and that's it for bookshops and video.
For secondhand bookstores, right? And there are a couple others, but they're not. Oh yeah, there's a couple others, but
those are the only four that I know.
Yeah, they just opened a new one off of, and it's a neat concept. It's a very, very right on 34th and 34th in the Northeast. They opened up a bookstore.
Okay, that's. I don't mean to contradict you, but that is a bookstore, but it's on the model. It operates on the model of a thrift shop.
Yeah.
They accept donations and they have volunteers.
No. It's again. I'm not saying it's.
Books between friends.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's on necessarily the same thing, but if you're looking at, again, strictly.
There are other places to buy secondhand books.
Yeah, and that's all I'm getting at, right? So there's an opportunity here, right? You gotta look at it like this. Things are changing. Part of it's because of Amazon. Part of it's because of accessibility. And you're competing with not just the city of Calgary anymore. Right? You're competing with the world. Flip that around though. This is a unique. Honestly, this is like looking in here. This is a unique, one of a kind bookstore / binding place. Advertise that. This is a unique ambiance. So you need to look at what you are.
Not what I'm not.
Exactly.
Well, I'm glad you brought me back to that because I mentioned what I see as the necessity to browse the shop because it's dense with good books. That is something that is very difficult to do online. I like buying books online because it's a different experience. You can access
Absolutely.
things that are very hard to find in Calgary.
Yeah.
And for other reasons as well. But you can't browse the internet the same way you can.
Oh, absolutely not.
So that's one thing, with that niche thing, that sort of boutique approach. to selling books. And that's what I'm sort of counting on. And I agree with you. I have to get the word out, and I haven't been very good at that. And one other thing, when I said when you were talking about the arrows leading to your Susian reading, it was kind of uncanny because Robert has been pushing this idea of using sort of the symbol of my shop, which is the manicule, the pointing finger, and I've got any number of examples around here, to advertise by getting a whole bunch of paper reproductions of the manicule and having his daughter and her friend go out and stick those up on lampposts around Calgary with the with the address.
Make it a game.
Yeah.
Make it a game. If you make it a game.
And that's exactly what he was thinking.
Yeah. No, again, look at what you are and not what you're not, and emphasize what you are. Again, we are in a niche world. Who are you as a bookstore? You are a literary / classic / fine. Well, we'll just say for just simplicity's sake, an eclectic bookstore. Cool. Advertise that. Be that. You know, the other thing I should ask: do you do events here?
Not really, and it's really surprising to me. I laugh because you're not the first person who's asked that, and it would seem Robert is, as you'll notice, or you maybe already have, is a really outgoing guy and an energetic guy, smart guy, tons of ideas, and he's connected on social media and in person with tons of people. He's having his birthday party next week. Now that's an event, but we don't have readings. We haven't had readings yet. We haven't had a musical performance. We've talked about it, but we haven't.
You have no, but I mean, things to consider. I mean, again, and you have a student market, literally, like not even a mile from you.
Sorry, we have a what?
You have a student market.
Yeah.
Not even a mile from you.
Yeah.
Not even, right? So I mean, all I'm pointing out to you is, whether you realize it or not, there are opportunities literally at your doorstep that at the very least you should explore.
And I have to admit that it's not my strong suit in life.
No. I get you. But I mean, you have a team.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that.
Teaming
up with Robert and his friends and his volunteers and apprentices. This is a great time for you to be doing this, for us anyways, and presumably for you too, in that I think we're sort of on the cusp of things changing and improving around here. Not that they've been bad, but he's got 3 fairly new volunteers who are from different parts of the world, have all sorts of various experience, and we're starting to talk more about events and about this finger pointing advertising thing or fun.
Just different thing. But the other thing too, because you are more like into a classical style, and this is the old money. This is my last idea, I promise. You have, again, you appeal to, like, something like this would appeal to what someone would, I wouldn't say necessarily believes is the right word, but you definitely appeal to more of an older classical reading audience. Right, so I mean,
just to interject, there is some pretty young stuff mixed in.
Oh no, I get you, but I'm just talking about the general tone
vibe,
of the general vibe.
Yeah,
not,
I think maybe that puts some people off. They think, ooh, this is too serious.
Well, but no. But again, I'm not. Like, again, this is your shop and how you want to run this. And what I'm saying is, again, niches, right? This all goes back to niches. I'm really shocked that like this is a place, again, I'm looking at a college student, but I'm also looking at college professors, university professors.
Yes.
Right? This would be very ideal because, again, strictly speaking, I mentioned that book, The Arthurian Romances, but this is the kind of place I would go if I could to read, especially if I'm in English literature or I'm trying to get access to I would say not necessarily more ancient information, but definitely stuff I wouldn't normally look for via Google or whatever other terms.
Yeah.
This is the kind of place I'd go for that.
thanks. I think that is a compliment.
Yeah, right.
I
so
agree.
I mean, so those are the. I mean, I'm just throwing this out there. So why not go to some of these people, introduce yourself. Hi, I'm bum 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 bum.
Like the art college.
Yeah, and just say, listen, this is what I do. I would love it if and make yourself open for like events and studies and because again.
Oh, if they wanted to propose something, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Right. Again, opportunity.
Little art shows.
Whatever. Right.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, just you are there. You have a space, and and again, the ambiance is quiet, like generally a nice, quiet, chill place, right? Why not?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Approaching them and kind of suggesting that if they have any input, if they'd like to make suggestions, I'm open.
Well, just that, but even just for events, so like imagine like a book club meeting, just for different niches of what you're doing.
That. Yeah, that's what I would like to do. I'd like to have a Finnegan's Wake, get out of a reading circle or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like just build like again. It might be a small group, but it's your group, right?
And the way to sum up in one way, what I'm trying to do here is I mentioned the word serious and how I seem to notice, I think I'm seeing some people come in here, and number one, feeling uncertain about whether it's a completely open bookstore, number two, thinking maybe it's too serious or something. Well, I would like to counter by saying, yeah, there's some pretty serious books in here, but I like the idea, going back to your idea of play, I like the idea of serious play, serious humor. Kafka, very serious humor. People think Kafka's foreboding and forbidding, but yes, there's a darkness, but there's also incredible humor.
Absolutely. Well, you have to laugh at it. You got to laugh at the darkness. After all, it's the only true way to rebel.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you rebel against it. You laugh at it and just go, I'm still here.
I'm with you.
Yeah, that's it. Sometimes that's all you can do.
Yeah. I think you and I have some things in common, despite our age difference. And
I like I said, I'm going on 12. Just by any.
The wonder years.
The wonder years, totally. And probably until I'm 80, I'll be in the wonder years, and then maybe I'll try something more mature like skydiving.
Yes.
It's important to get there, in terms of your age, how serious you should be.
Just this morning, I at home, I was reading, as I'm wont to do, and I can't quite get it in context. I can't remember who said this, but he said that he wished that humans could kind of invert the aging process and not become kids per se, but to start to become smaller as they got really ancient.
He's not. Here's the thing, though. He's not. So as I've gotten older, I've recognized the fact that I can be as big or as small as I choose to be. I personally think when I get to my 60s, 70s, and 80s, I'm going to be bulletproof. I barely give a shit now, right? But the thing is, I still got life to live and things to build towards. When I get to the point where I've done everything's paid for, I'm probably just going to do all the crazy stuff in my head, because at that point, my life would be like, I've done everything I need to do. Mm-hmm. Now it's about everything I want to do.
So it'd be kind of, to quote Obama of all people, kind of be instead of the bucket list, the fuck it list.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, kind of. Well, just because you're bulletproof. I mean, it's not because you can't die, but because I've already lived my life. Now it's about, look, Christopher Lee at 90 years old, he was an actor. Christopher Lee cut his first rock song at 90.
No relation to Stan Lee.
No. But also Stan Lee's a perfect.
It's sort of a relation.
But no. But Stan Lee is great because I think he kept going until he was 95. I mean, yeah, you know what?
A child like he was.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a good sense.
Well, he was fantastic. Even Do you know what I'm going to miss when I get older is I'm going to miss the energy I had when I was younger. That's what a lot of older people miss, is because you have the ability when you're older to appreciate all the things you can do, right? But you don't necessarily have the energy to do it all, and you have to be a lot more picky and choosy. Whereas when you're younger, you can do everything, and it doesn't really matter. Now you can still do that when you're older. You just need to nap more as a result, right?
Yeah.
Right? I need to take a nap for how long? 3 days, right? But I mean, that's
my memory banks recuperate.
Yeah, or something. Memory bank, everything recuperates, right? Because you don't recover like you did when you were younger.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I kind of like. That's what I'm going to miss when I get into my 50s, 60s, 70s, is that recovery. Because now I can still recover from just about everything. Now I don't recover as fast as I did when I was 20, but I still recover relatively quickly, right? But that's what I'm going to miss. But I'm not going to miss. But I want to be as big as possible in terms of I'm open to try things. I keep exploring possibilities. I keep chasing things because look again, going back to Stan Lee. Stan Lee never stopped. He never did. Like, he enjoyed everything. Now again, he made a lot of mistakes along the way, but he made
some unhappy ones.
Oh, absolutely. They're both, right? You make mistakes, happy accidents, unhappy accidents.
Part of it is how you interpret them after the fact.
Well, it's what you
turn them into happy by interpretation.
You can become better, right? And that's your choice too. Like, when you become better, and also when you get older, you also accept certain limitations you have, right? That it's easier. It's
gracious.
Yeah, well, even if you're not so gracious, right? I find, but the thing is, the danger when you grow older is you can become smaller because it gets more uncomfortable to change as you get older, right? So eventually it gets to the point where I can stop changing. But then this is how life works. Life always changes. It doesn't give a damn how comfortable you are about it keeps rolling along. So what happens is you do become smaller and smaller and smaller, and then one day you're gone. Right? Now, you're still going to go one day, whether you're no matter how big you are. But I would rather, I hope, cross my fingers, I hope I'm still trying many different crazy, wonderful things, and I'm living my life, and I'm making a million mistakes all the way until I'm, until God goes, hey, it's your time. And I'll be like, I don't want to go. No, you got to go now. And that'll be how it goes, right? And I want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy that's like, I'm miserable, I'm angry, I'm scared, I'm
hanging on for dear life.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do my thing.
Fear is the big one that you mentioned, yeah.
Well, I'm going to be afraid.
To try to avoid, to the extent as possible.
Well, okay, go that. I think fear is a very natural, healthy part of life.
Yeah, I'm not one of those who preaches no fear. I'm afraid of a lot of things. Including going out and approaching those people and telling them to come in.
Yeah, but it's not fear, it's discomfort. You have to be willing to be discomfortable, and to a degree, you have to be willing to eat shit. I mean, that sounds, because it's...
Humility teaches lessons too.
But also, if you're willing to be uncomfortable and you're willing to go through the slog, you get good things. Not necessarily the good things you want sometimes, but you get good things resolved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? And the moment you stop going through that process, well, you've gone as far as you can go. Right? And that's it. And you can be happy with that for a time, but ultimately, life keeps changing. Whether you change or you don't change, right? Life keeps changing.
Yes. So I guess the idea is to try to stay in sync with it to some extent by way of changing yourself.
Yeah. I mean,
instead of petrifying.
That's my biggest fear. I don't want to be afraid of change ever.
Well, I mentioned before you turned the recorder on one of my recent favorite quotations of William Blake's. The fool who persists in his folly will become wise. And I thought of him just now. I think it was in his mythology of Urizen. Anyways, was the figure, the personification of petrification as the person who doesn't change and just stays him or herself in spite of everything.
It's the one thing that everybody should avoid.
I thought of it, speaking of quoting, I discovered a Toronto bookseller. I don't know if he has an actual street mortar and brick shop. Aphrodite's Bookshop. He's got a lot of really neat stuff. And he's a publisher too, so he knows a lot of authors and gets their stuff. He says something that I would like to co-opt, but can't plagiarize him. Something to the effect of, this bookshop is not for everybody. So, not for just anybody. So, why not come in and be a somebody?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'll put that out for. I'm quoting him, listeners. I'm not going to use that slogan myself in writing.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Like, you gotta figure out what works for you, and whatever works for you, I hope you nothing but success on it. So, man, I like the idea that bookstores are still around, and different bookstores, not just homogenized.
Exactly. Well, I'm very grateful for you selecting me to do your first interview here, and I hope that you become a visitor.
For sure.
Because we don't, I like to encourage the idea of people just coming in here and browsing, and whether they buy a book is kind of incidental. Of course, it helps if people buy a book from time to time, but please come in, Josh, and
sure.
And I extend that invitation to all your listeners and your friends and acquaintances.
So why don't we end the interview then like this? Plug the bookstore, and how can people find you?
Well, okay. I've done those quotations are my sort of slightly literary way, poetic way of plugging. The Blake and Canetti was the one I quoted, the one I read this morning. I couldn't remember the author before. Very serious guy, but showed a little sense of humor with the idea of getting smaller as he aged.
Yes.
And I don't know. I like to think. I'm not much of a philanthropist, but I like to think, picking up on what you just said, I like to think of this place as a service to Calgary. Sure, we have Pages and Shelf Life Books, which are bringing in some fantastic stuff. And there's some common ground for sure, and certainly in terms of the literary things. But I also think that I offer things that they don't offer. And outside of the three of us, nobody is really offering these out of the ordinary books. So I'm doing my little bit of philanthropic service to the community, to Calgary. I'm trying to do that by offering this bookstore, which is, you mentioned identity earlier. I don't like to identify with too many things, but I can't help but identify with this place, and it's sort of my life work, and I'm a book hunter and a book lover. I love every aspect of the book, and this place, I believe, reflects that.
All right, that's cool. Now, just as a reading to the readers, where's this place called, and where can you find it?
Yes, I was just going to get around to that second part of your question or your suggestion. I won't give you the address because it's a little confusing. I will just simply say, as I did before, we're on 10th Street Southwest between 7th and 8th Avenues. So we are approximately 50 meters away from the Kirby West Blue Line C train station. Parking isn't great, but there is meter parking. Once in a while, you can snag. On weekends, you can get some free parking. So that's the geographical location. The hours are pretty informal, as the whole place tends to be, but we are open roughly from 11 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Saturday, until about 6 or after 6 p.m.
Okay. What's this place called?
Pardon me?
What's this place called?
Sigla Books. Sigla. Look it up. It's an interesting word.
All right.
How long was that?
And that was my conversation with David Sidjak of Sigla Books. You can find him as well as everybody else I've been interviewed so far at Octavia Book Bindery at Octavia Book Bindery or Sigla Books at 1040 8th Avenue Southwest. Definitely go in and check it out. You want to get your books repaired, you want restored, or if you want to appreciate the fine art that is bookbinding and fixing and carrying of books, this is definitely the shop for you. It's a really, really cool store, and you should definitely check it out. Beyond all that, I'm kind of nervous. Like, I've been nervous for the last week and a half. My Patreon is nearly done. I got some basic tiers. We're gonna start small and kind of work our way up at this point. I'm gonna add more tiers as time goes on too. I know as the Patreon evolves. This is probably the biggest undertaking I've ever done. At the end of the day, you have to believe in yourself. I mean, that's all there really is to it. It doesn't really matter what you do. At some point in your life, you have to look into the world and say, yeah, I'm worth it. Or you're never going to know what you're capable of. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. I am legitimately very nervous. And with everything coming out, like Alice Darrow coming out, with Cloud Diver just about ready to go, there's so many things happening right now. And it kind of feels, although, it feels like I've done nothing in some ways. In other ways, I've done an absolute ton. I've done some stuff for Colleen Anderson. I'm going to be in On-Spec this year, which is just mind-boggling. I have a giant Aurora literally right beside me right now, which makes me go, wow, I have a giant Aurora. Like, I've done a lot of cool things in the last few months, and more things are going to happen, and will continue to happen. And I'm really, part of me is like, who am I to do this? There is that little bit of that imposter syndrome. I think this happens to all of us when we see even a little bit of success. But, I mean, because it's something, your work now has some concreteness to it. And that's kind of what I feel like right now. And so, I'm nervous, I'm scared, but I'm excited too. Yeah, it's going to be great. Beyond all that, thank you for listening to this episode of Just Joshing. Now, you can support the podcast in a number of different ways. You can support it by subscribing to it, whether it's through Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, or Podomatic itself. You can just hit the subscribe button. You can rate this podcast, review this podcast, give a comment to this, like whatever you want to do. Spread the word however you can about this podcast. I greatly appreciate everybody that does so. 1. 2, my books, The Watcher, Storm Dancer, Wandering God, currently available to MiraWorldPublishing.com. Check them out. You can also get them through Amazon, Kobo, you name the place, you can find my books. They're great. They're wonderful. And I promise you that I put a lot of work into them. Number 3, YouTube channel is Joshua Penteloresco. After this week, there's going to be 4. There's going to be number 4 and hopefully number 5. There's going to be a bunch of other ways. But no matter how you guys do it, thank you very, very much for your support and for listening to this podcast. Next week, Robert Angus Part 1 airs Monday. Part 2 airs Thursday. I am excited, and I hope you guys are too. All right. Take care of yourselves out there, all right?
Josh.